And 2 or 3 years later, I'm looking around wondering, where am I getting my cases from? How am I getting this? They're not coming in. So my secretary came to me one day and she said, if you don't figure out a way to generate new cases, you won't be able to pay my salary or the rent or any of your expenses. And that's when I started to realize she was 100% right. And I was desperate now because my caseload was dwindling. I had no cases coming in. And I tried to figure out what the heck to do. And so I started scrambling, looking around for what other lawyers were doing. And at that
right now I'm calling it the Lawyer Marketing Show. The important thing is I got to get out there and help these attorneys. And I have a special guest today, just something I'm extremely excited about running this show. One of the OGs of marketing, and who I consider the OG of lawyer marketing, video marketing especially, certainly on YouTube. There's nobody doing it better right now than today's guest, Gerry Oginski. I believe I'm pronouncing that right because I've watched enough of his videos to know how to pronounce his last name. Gerry Oginski. You haven't heard of him yet, you need to go Google Gerry Oginski, start watching his YouTube videos, see what he does, because he's killing it. He's built an entire brand on YouTube. Okay, I have some notes here about Gerry. He's a medical malpractice attorney over in Great Neck, New York. He has over 3,000 videos on YouTube, 3,000 videos all day, every day, all year, month after month, who just bring him clients, bring him business. Okay, he once commented on my blog, on a blog article I wrote, that his videos have been watched over 2 million times in the last 28 days. And 219,000 minutes of his videos have been watched in the last 28 days. That was a comment he left. I believe that was about 2019, April 2018, he left that comment. Okay, so I'm going to bring on Gerry Oginski. We're happy to have him on the show. Let me just bring him live in the stream.
Hey, Dustin, nice to see you.
Hey, Gerry, welcome to the show. Welcome to my Lawyer Marketing Show, as of yet named Lawyer Marketing Show. So glad to have you today, Gerry. Do me a favor, if you will. This is where I normally throw the pre-roll, the music, the branded intro, but I don't have any of that. So if you could just introduce yourself to the viewers, tell us who you are, what do you do?
Sure. I'm a New York medical malpractice and personal injury attorney here in New York. I've been in practice for 32 years. And what I do is I am a marketing student. And what I do is I sell legal services. So I consider myself to be a marketer who just happens to be in the business of selling my legal services. And if you understand that mindset, you'll begin to understand how important what your knowledge can do for your ideal clients and consumers, and more importantly, how to begin to attract them to you.
Absolutely. I don't think I've heard it put more succinctly like that. I maybe have a different way of saying this, and I wrote this email just last night for the 100th time. I tell attorneys, you thought you were a lawyer. You thought you were an attorney. What they didn't tell you in law school was that you're a business owner who just happens to own the business you own is called a law firm. Now, you said it differently. You're a marketer who sells legal services. Very similar platforms we're preaching from here, Gerry. I'm looking at your YouTube page right now, and maybe in post-production, I'll put all of your videos that I'm scrolling through just on the screen, but 3,000 videos is what you had once said you had. Is that true? You have 3,000 videos on YouTube?
No. Okay. As of today, I have over 3,200.
Okay, wow. Let me just look at
it. Keeps going up.
In the last week, you published 3 hours ago, 4 days ago, 1 week ago, 1 week ago, 1 week ago, 2 weeks ago. Frequency of publish. I want to just get into your process. I want to first ask you, there was a time when you weren't video marketing, and at some point you said, hey, I need to join YouTube. Talk about that time. Like, what was the trait,
Sure.
The change in thought?
My change was I was a solo practitioner. I had left the firm and I'd taken all my cases with me. And now after about 2 years, 2 or 3 years later, when I was resolving those cases, I thought I'm the greatest guy in the world, and people were referring cases to me, and it would continue. What I didn't know was that my referral sources were drying up. And what I didn't know was how to generate new calls and clients. So here I
Okay.
am. I'm a solo practitioner now. I'm not doing any marketing. I was just relying on word of mouth stuff. And 2 or 3 years later, I'm looking around wondering, where am I getting my cases from? How am I getting this? They're not coming in. So my secretary came to me one day and she said, if you don't figure out a way to generate new cases, you won't be able to pay my salary or the rent or any of your expenses. And that's when I started to realize she was 100% right. And I was desperate now because my caseload was dwindling. I had no cases coming in, and I tried to figure out what the heck to do. And so I started scrambling, looking around for what other lawyers were doing. And at that point, what they were doing was investing in the Yellowpages, spending
Okay.
hundreds and thousands of dollars on money on these full page ads, these yellow double truck page ads for
Right.
advertising and TV advertising and the billboard advertising. And here I am, a solo guy. I don't have money for any of that. But I figured, hey, if they're doing it, should be doing it too. So I actually invested $25,000 for a Yellow Page ad, and I got one
Oof.
single case for that entire year that just paid for that ad.
Wow.
And it was terrible. And so I'm scrambling, I'm searching, going online, trying to find something. And I came across this concept called education-based marketing, which
Okay.
which really came down to write some articles about stuff that put it on your website, and if somebody's searching for it, maybe they'll call you. So
Yes.
I had more and more free time. So I started doing that because my caseload was dwindling. And in 2006, this little tiny funky website came online, which I didn't really understand. And it had this tagline that says, now accepting user-generated video content. I had no idea what that meant. So I started exploring this little website, and I started looking for lawyers who were using it. And the only lawyers I could find on there were people who took their TV commercials for 30-second commercials and put it up on there. And this little website had a funny name to it. It was called YouTube. And
Yeah.
okay, so here I am in 2006. I've got some articles on my website. My website was 2 years old. I'm getting occasional calls. I have no idea how to market myself. I'm just starting to learn about educating my ideal clients. And now I'm thinking, okay, if I can create an article to try and attract someone who's looking for me, why can't I do the same thing in the form of a video?
Yeah.
And there was no other attorney that I found who was doing the same thing in 2006. And this just kept ruminating every time I would go into court or do something legal work, any type of legal work. I kept thinking, oh my God, I've got to do something to market myself because I'm not getting cases. And I kept thinking how cool it would be if I could put my content in a video format, put it online for the world to see, and then hopefully attract people. And
Absolutely.
that started me on my journey to learn how to create video, which I have to tell you was so frustrating because there was no one in the country teaching lawyers or anybody how to create video to put it online. I'm telling you, if there was a service that was teaching people or doing it for them, I would have immediately paid whatever I had, do it for me, and I'll go back to being a lawyer. But no one was doing it. And I just kept having these ideas. And what was interesting was that as I began to think about how to do this, I thought, okay, I'm going to do this. I think I know how. I'm going to have to buy professional video equipment, professional
Okay.
lighting equipment, professional microphones. And you know what? I knew nothing about any of those three things. I had a video camcorder, to video record my kids when they were younger, but I had no clue. So it was all trial and error, and I invested thousands and thousands of dollars on all that equipment. And I spent so much time trying to figure out how to create an actual video and then actually physically get it up online
Yes.
until I created my very first video. that I actually managed to put up online. It took me so long to do it. And the funny thing was, that video was the worst video in creation. It was horrible. It was 6 minutes long. I put up a gray projector screen behind me so nobody could see where I was. I'm sitting 6 inches in front of my Mac computer, which, by the way, I didn't even know how to turn on the camera.
You're sitting here like this.
Yeah, you can see the reflection in my glasses, and I'm wearing a suit and tie, but shorts, because nobody could see below my waist.
Okay.
So the funny thing was that probably within the first 2 weeks, I began to get calls from people who saw that video, who said, "Hey, Mr. Oginski, I just saw your video online. Can I ask you some questions?" And I'm thinking, oh my God, I can't believe this. This works. How could this have worked?
Right.
And my wife and my kids are telling me, stop wasting your time. You have a deposition to prepare for. You have a trial coming up. Don't waste your time. No one is ever going to watch a lawyer on video. Impossible. I said, I'm telling you, something about this I think will work. They were so negative. They didn't support me. They didn't understand why anyone would want to watch an attorney on video. And the funny thing was, the topic of that video was something that no one I had ever heard talk about, which was something so simple, which was how to hire a medical malpractice attorney in New York. That was it.
Yeah. That's man, there's so much to unpack there, Gerry. The first thing I want to start with, just to point out to any attorney out there who's watching this, is that you started making videos. 2 weeks later, you started getting calls. But what you said is very important for people to understand. You didn't get calls and someone said, "Hi, Gerry, here's my credit card. This is a Visa credit card. And here's my number. Go ahead and charge me. Let's talk." They said, "Can I ask you some questions?" And now the conversation that you started with a video is continuing on phone, and you're building trust. And eventually you got a signed agreement. But what happens when attorneys start marketing, when they start taking the advice that I tell them, and they start getting the calls, someone calls and they just say, "I got a question about my nephew got a DWI the other day. I got a quick question." And they're like, "Sir, if you want a consultation, it'll cost $30,000. Not $30,000, like $150 consultation, sir." But what if you just expected to get a question and you answered the question cordially as if you cared about the nephew, and once you get your nephew to call me, here's my number, email, and let me drop a quick text to your nephew too. You're gonna get conversations going, not necessarily credit card numbers, but those conversations lead to credit card numbers. Okay, before I got into anything, I wanted to point that out because I'm so glad you said that.
Very true.
You'll see me taking notes here, and I gotta create a whole production out of this video in post-production, me and my VA, so I'm taking notes. But what I want to say next is that you pointed out very astutely, the only lawyers who were maybe on video were taking their television commercial, which is a completely different format than an internet story, okay? And somehow you made the connection. Don't put a television commercial on a YouTube video.
Right.
Can you talk about that? What was going on there?
Yeah, and this was important because as I'm going through looking at YouTube to see what's on there already, and remember, YouTube was just in its infancy, there were people who took a commercial, and I couldn't understand why anyone would want to give up 30 seconds of their life to watch an attorney say, "Come to me because I'm great. I've been doing this 25 years. You've got to come to me now. Here's my phone number. I'm going to repeat it 5 times. You come to me." And I kept thinking, what does that do? It doesn't answer anybody's question. If they're going online, it means they've got a problem. They're looking for information. These commercials don't give anyone any information other than this guy is a lawyer and he handles these cases. So what? So do thousands of other people. Big deal. So this guy wasn't distinct. None of these attorneys were distinguishing themselves from what they did from anybody else. All they were doing is trying to shout louder. And I didn't see any benefit to any consumer who's actually online looking to be able to say, hey, that's the right lawyer for me. I know it because, and plus you can't generate trust in 30 seconds. And you can't get someone to believe what you have to say or show that you have expertise. Instead, just standing there screaming, come to me, I'm in practice 25 years, or we have 300 years combined experience. Okay, big deal. That doesn't help a consumer understand that you know the information that I need to know. And that was a problem that I saw with all these lawyers putting up these commercials. And importantly, I think it was the video companies who were trying to do something different to put another marketing channel out there just in the hopes that somebody would click on it and watch somebody's video commercial.
Yeah, you know, I tell this story to attorneys to try to get my message across. But, you know, my own father went to the doctor with an earache, and the doctor told him, well, you need to clean your ears out, and he sent him home, right? Well, I go to my dad's house 2 days later and he still has an earache. And I'm like, well, didn't you go to the doctor? He's like, yeah, he said I need to clean my ears out. And I'm like, all I can think of is, had that doctor's dad walked into that office, he would have cleaned his dad's ears out and sent him home. Instead, I have no medical training. I go to Walgreens, buy a Murine ear cleaning kit and clean my dad's ears out. The two reasons that happened: one, because I care, you know, and I tell anybody, when you're looking for an expert, you have to do two things. One, you have to find someone who actually knows what they're doing. It's very hard. Maybe 10% of people know what they're doing. Two, you have to find someone who actually cares. Almost nobody, you know, every professional is worried about two things. One, when do I get to go home? And two, who's on my Instagram right now? You can, with a video, what lawyers are doing right now is they might as well be holding their business card to the camera and for 5 seconds. Whereas what you're doing, you're demonstrating knowledge every day with this frequency of publish. I'm an expert, I'm demonstrating my expert knowledge, but at the same time, you are convincing people that you care, which is it's not a commodity. That's not commoditized. It's very unique to find any professional, lawyer, doctor, marketing expert who actually cares about their clients. And that is the advantage you have over everyone else who's just pitching a 20-second commercial for YouTube. You're telling a story. You even say, come on in, you know, you're bringing the potential client into your world. Let me show you that I care about you and that I know what I'm doing.
You know, it's interesting. I just want to point this out. In all of my videos, I never talk about myself. I never talk about how many years I'm in practice, where I went to school, my credentials, because these people who are watching don't care. There's only one thing that they care about. Can I help solve their problem? Do I know what their problem is? If I can show them that I know what their problem is, and I have experience by telling them and explaining to them what I've been able to do with their problem, now all of a sudden the trust level goes way up. And next thing you know, you get that call that says, hey, Mr. Oginski, I just saw your video about this topic. I had the same exact problem. Can I ask you some questions?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's also huge, Gerry. I tell people also, when you can distinctly define or describe the problem that somebody is having, they automatically believe you have the solution. You know, if you're sitting there talking about, I don't know, someone that's had some kind of medical malpractice issue, it comes up in your world all the time because you live in that world. But if a viewer goes and searches YouTube and they see you describing exactly what they're going through, suddenly you're the person with the solution to that problem too, because you're so familiar with it.
Exactly.
Man, there's just so much to unpack still. I wanted to talk about, you said when you made your first video, you're like, I need all this equipment, $1,000. I got to build a whole room in my apartment. I got to add on to my house to build a studio now because I'm going to start video marketing. I got to go hire a photographer, someone who can do this. And I look at your videos, maybe 4 years ago, 2 years ago, the production value was much different on your videos. Now it's obvious you're doing this, and that may be a function of the quarantine we're currently in. But I want you to talk about this process, like what equipment you wanted to use, what equipment you thought you needed, and how did it evolve to what it is today?
Okay. So remember at the very beginning in 2007, when I actually started to create videos, I didn't know what I needed. So I thought I needed all the professional equipment, and I started buying a video camera that cost me $2,500. And that back then it was the micro cassette that you know, the tape would wind. And I thought I needed a professional microphone. I spent $1,000 on a microphone. And lights, I knew nothing about lights. So I think I spent about $800 on, you know, huge multi-studio light setup. And
Wow.
here I am spending, you know, 2 hours just setting up my equipment to figure out how it worked. And then I would create the video. And when I would actually put it online, it looked like something that, you know, a kid would make, because it was all grainy and terrible. And I did not convert it properly and render it correctly. And it was awful, just awful. So I began to realize, once I started creating the videos and actually figured out the correct formats, because everything was so technical back then in terms of, you know, the precise rendering format and the pixels and the frame. If you didn't do it exactly correctly, it would look like crap. And so it was never going to look like something beautiful on TV. So once I began to start learning how to do that, I began realizing, okay, I see this equipment works, but I've got to find another solution, because I can't spend an hour every time I want to start a video to set up the whole thing. It takes me an hour. It takes me half an hour to break it down and put it away. It just interrupts too much of my day. But since I had nothing else and I had already invested so much money and time to learn about this, I continued to use it for a number of years. And I would be restricted to certain places in my house to do it, because that's where I was shooting video.
Right.
I was shooting it literally in my bedroom. I was shooting it in my basement. And I just had no place else, and I didn't know anything else on what I could do. As I progressed and started to create more and more video, and people would call me more and more often, and I began to realize the light bulb went on. Holy cow, if I can create 10 videos and people are calling, why don't I create 20 and then 30? And it just kept snowballing, because there's a whole cyclic event there, and it's a positive reinforcement. You know, you realize, hey, somebody's calling after one video. Great, let me make a second. Somebody's calling after 10 videos. Let me make another 10. And that became all consuming for me. And so now I'm spending a great deal of my week shooting video. Why? Because number one, I have time. I'm not busy practicing law because I don't have the cases coming in yet.
Thank you for saying that.
Right? So if you don't have the cases in there and you do have the time, either you have to hire someone to figure out how to do this, or you've got to learn to do it yourself. So for me, my trajectory on learning this, the huge learning curve was enormous, but I had the time. I didn't have the money coming in. I didn't have the cases, but I had the time. So I was desperate. So then as it evolved, I began to realize, okay, I don't need a $2,500 camera. Let me sell that. I'll buy a $1,000 camera. And I don't need a $1,000 microphone. I can get something smaller. And over the years, it has clearly evolved to the point where now I simply have my iPhone and I put it on a stabilizer device called a gimbal. And it allows me the opportunity to either put it on a tripod and shoot anywhere, or, you know, just walk around with it. And if you look at my videos now, just like you mentioned, my latest evolution is that I love personally walking around the neighborhood. You know, as I go out for a walk, I can hold my camera and I'm shooting videos, and it's something I don't recommend for a lot of people, because it's very challenging to be careful of traffic, think about what you want to talk about, and get mechanically everything correct. So that's a challenge. But more importantly, a lot of attorneys are still, they think that, and I'll just give you a quick example about the clothes that I wear when I shoot my videos. When I started, I thought I had to wear a suit and tie, and I thought that that was everything. And then I got more casual and more comfortable because I preferred not wearing a tie. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to be more comfortable without a jacket. So here I am, a button-down shirt. And then I
Ooh.
evolved into, okay, I'm going to wear a polo shirt with a collar. And then I said, you know what, screw it. I'm more comfortable wearing a t-shirt with a baseball hat and my sunglasses out on a walk. And now it's not, I don't concern myself with how a viewer sees me, what I'm wearing. I look at it and say, I'm providing great information to these folks who want this information. They don't care how I'm dressed. They don't care that I'm standing in front of not standing in front of a legal bookcase. So there's been a huge evolution with the equipment. Now you can walk around, you've got a camera in your hand that you can immediately press a button, do something live on Facebook or YouTube, or pre-record it and upload it a few seconds later. There's no excuse for someone not to take out their phone, put it on a stand, put it on a tripod, and shoot video. There's no excuse now.
Yeah. You know, $1,000 microphone, $800 lighting system, $2,500 camera. Probably what you didn't mention was editing software to put all that together before you uploaded it. Whereas today, you're out here like this in the sunlight, that whole, everything I just mentioned sits in every one of our pockets, you know, and a lot of business owners, how do I get clients? You know, man, how do I get clients? I don't understand how to get clients. And they're holding their damn cell phone in, they're holding their cell phone in their hand. You no longer need to like, yeah.
You're right about the editing. I forgot to mention that. I would get so frustrated because I didn't know how to edit my videos, and there was nobody around that I could hire to edit my videos. So I bought Final Cut. First, I bought Final Cut Express, then Final Cut Pro. And I would spend, for every video that I shot, it would take me at least an hour to an hour and 15 or an hour and a half to edit my video from start to finish. And it was torture. But I would be spending every weekend, hours at night when I'm done with my legal work and my kids are asleep, I'd be spending hours editing my videos. And it was total torture. But I will tell you, doing it that way actually made me a better legal writer because I had to edit out a lot of stuff. I learned how to edit well, but it was total torture. So you are correct. In your phone, you have all that equipment that you carry around every single day.
You know, I talked to Angela Lang a lot 2 weeks ago, kind of the same conversation we're having, and her answer is genius to the whole editing. You know, when you said Final Cut, my back started hurting right here. Like I got stressed out because I deal with that too. Angela says, I just go live and that's it. No editing. It uploads. She killed the whole editing process. And I don't know that it's ever been easier to become a well-known expert as an attorney than it is today if you can get over the fear of putting yourself out there on camera. How did you get over that fear? You had to have been shy, camera shy at first. Or even you said, like, people are going to think I'm stupid, you know, walking around like this, what if it doesn't work? Like, how did you get over all of that?
You know, that fear was based on the fact that if I didn't generate new cases, I was going to not have an office. I was going to be out of business. I was going to be broke. And that fear drove me to do whatever I could, including getting on camera. And I didn't care what anybody thought. You know, okay, this is also very interesting. A lot of attorneys think that they need permission from someone to actually start doing something novel or new or creative. And at first I had that mindset saying, wait a second, nobody in my entire industry, nobody in the state that I know of has ever done anything like this. Who do I have to get permission from? Do I have to go to the Bar Association or the grievance committee to put in an application and say, hey, can I start doing this? And I realized, you know what? This is ridiculous. I'm just going to start doing it. I'll stay within my ethical rules, not say anything that I shouldn't, and I'll see what happens. And in all the years I've been doing this, since 2007, 2008, no one has ever criticized the fact that I created a video to help someone understand how their case works. In fact, I go into court, you know, pre-COVID times, or I get adversaries during depositions or other instances where they tell me that they watch my videos, which is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that about the state bar. Every state bar is different, but imagine for a second that you are at a birthday party, okay? And someone's brother-in-law comes up to you and they're like, "Hey, Gerry, what do you do for a living?" "Oh, I work on medical malpractice cases." "Oh, really? My father has had this terrible, his leg's broken, the doctor's totally messed it up. What do you think about this situation?" And you say, "Well, and you give a quick explanation. Did you need to first call the New York State Bar, tell them what you're about to say, then show that you just had a conversation with this guy? And so in Texas, there used to be these words, beckon business. You can't beckon business without whatever. It's no longer in there, but because nobody reads the actual statute, nobody even knows that but me. But everyone's like, "You can't beckon business." And it's like, well, guess what? Beckoning business, that doesn't work online. You're not going to make a television. You're going to have a conversation with an audience. Just the same as you would if you ran into someone at the mall and they found out you were a lawyer. Do you need to call the state bar for that? Who do you need permission from, other than yourself?
You don't. As long as you stay within your state's ethics rules, you're fine. And getting back to what you were mentioning about live videos and what Angela has said, I agree with her. It is very easy to simply take that live video and put it up online. But I'll tell you something. In fact, I got a comment today from a video about a live video that I did a little while ago. And on the live videos, personally, what I like to do is I like to acknowledge people who are coming on, because I'll do a live video for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And I personally think it's important to say hello to people who are just arriving, who have joined you, and you see people, doing the thumbs up or giving you hearts as you're talking. So then I take that video and put it up on YouTube. So this one viewer left a comment actually this morning that says, "I really like your content, but I find it very distracting that you say hello to all these viewers and I see all these hearts and thumbs up all along." And the reality is that's how these live videos work. And if you're going to do it, and I encourage you to do it, you can build a brand. You can start engaging with people who are interested in what you have to say this way. And all of a sudden, people who want this information, it's not just your friends or family, it's people who need this information.
Yeah.
Now they're going to find it. And if you start interacting with them, you're not creating an attorney-client relationship. You're simply giving them a little bit of information. You're not telling them everything that they need to know. And you're not focusing specifically on all the details of their case, but you're understanding what they're going through. You're getting them to realize that you have the information that will help them. And now the next step is, give me a call. Let's chat. Let's see what's going on and I can help you.
Yeah. One more thing before we get into the topics of your videos. You had mentioned that you started out in your bedroom, your basement, you made 10, you got some positive reinforcement was what you called it, then you made 20. I tell people you can get better at anything, right? Expect to suck in the beginning. Just like you said, my first video, you said it was the worst thing ever published. Probably it wasn't, but you have to expect. I tell people get through 20 videos. They're all going to stink. 21 might be a little bit good. Can you talk about this process of going from, I don't know what I'm doing, to now you're probably the foremost YouTube lawyer video authority? How did you get from one to where you are now?
Exactly what you said, which is practice. Nobody is going, when you start out as a trial lawyer, on the first day, you are never going to be as good as you are 10 years down the road. You're never going to be the best guy around on that first day, on the 10th day, on the first month. Instead, what you have to do is you have to keep doing it. And the only way you are going to get better, no matter what you do, is to keep doing it. And you will see what we talked about earlier, that evolution, that change in how your production value increases, and more importantly, how your presentation on camera changes. And when you do that, you will realize even after just a month how much more comfortable you're going to be. You won't feel stilted and uncomfortable because you have to read a teleprompter. And I'll give you a little tip. A number of years ago, I was helping some attorneys in Chicago create video. No, Ohio, I'm sorry, in Ohio. And in that video, this attorney was an old school guy. He only did videos and commercials using a teleprompter. And I come in and I said, okay, you're supposed to have various topics for me. Let's go. And he had his whole teleprompter set up. I said, no. This is not going to work.
Right.
I said, I don't want you reading off the teleprompter. You may be very good at it, but I have to tell you, people doing it for 10, 15, 20 years reading teleprompter still are not great at it because you can see their eyes moving and they're very stiff. I said, I want you to put that away. And instead, I want you to tell me a story. Just like you're sitting across the kitchen table from me, telling me a story about what happened to the 7-year-old girl when she now walked across the street. Tell me that story. Okay. And now he fought me with it, but he finally agreed. He put it away and we did it 2 ways. We did it once with him reading. I said, now do it the other way. Now tell me the story. And having him tell me the story was the best thing he could do.
Yes.
Because it's just like what we're doing now. We're having a conversation.
Right.
And it's just like you're sitting at your kitchen table, you're having a cup of coffee on a Sunday morning, your best friend turns to you and says, hey, Dustin, something happened to me. I need to confide in you. I need some guidance. And you turn and say, oh man, this is what I do. Let me tell you what to do.
Yes.
And now you start teaching them and educating them. And next thing you know, all of a sudden they understand that you get it. Why? Because you told them a story and you've done it in a confident way. So you're not formal and stiff and stilted. It's now very relaxed. And now you become so much better by having that simple conversation. So keep that in your mind as you begin to create your videos. Just think you are just chatting with your best friend and you need to share with them this great information that will help them. And also importantly, one last thing. Importantly, when you do it, you've got to be enthusiastic and energetic when you do it. Okay? That is critical because the more energetic you are, the more enthusiastic you are thinking, I need to get these people this information. They have to have it. That will help them. Just like you mentioned at the very beginning, you have a desire, you have a need to want to help them. So show them that you want to help them.
Right.
Be enthusiastic. And by doing that, they start to lean in more. They start to pay closer attention. And now you get drawn in and you get sucked into the story. Next thing you know, they're sitting there totally engrossed in what you have to say. And they've watched the whole video. Then they see another video of yours comes up and they press click and they watch another one. And they're so interested in what you have to say because you are interesting to them. Yes. And again, that raises the trust level. Next thing you know, you're getting that call saying, I just watched a few of your videos about the exact topic. I've got to talk to you. I need to hire you. That's how it works.
What you've been talking about for the last 3 minutes is finding your voice. I took this class, pretrial litigation in law school, and I would just get beat to shreds every time I had to argue the case because I was up there impersonating a lawyer, like what I thought a lawyer should be like. My voice would change and I would try to be very quiet. And one day there was a case about someone who was injured on a football field, and my opposing counsel's like, how could they were sitting in the 10th row? How could they possibly have seen what happened on the field? The witness. And the judge was like, counselor, what do you think of that? And I was like, I was at a football game yesterday. I was sitting at the upper level and I could see the whole thing fine. And the whole class took notice, like, oh my gosh, Dustin just found his voice. Because there was no lawyering there. I was just talking. And that's exactly what you're never going to find your voice if you're reading off a teleprompter and trying to impersonate what you think a lawyer should be. Be who you are. If you don't love being an attorney, you don't love helping people, I think you should go find something else to do. But if you love it, you can talk about it all the time and off the cuff, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
And you know what? That's a perfect point because I used to get these attorneys who would say, wait a second, I have to create a script and I have to sit there at a 45-degree angle as if I'm being interviewed in order to deliver my material.
Right.
And I said, let me ask you a question. When somebody comes into your office and they ask you a question, and now you're sitting across from them, when you give your answer, do you turn your head 45 degrees, stare at the wall, and talk to them? I'm like, no, you look directly at them.
Right.
Right? You look directly at them. You have to, and when you're looking into the camera, what does it look like? Somebody's giving you a few minutes of their life, of their time. You're staring at them, you're responding, you're talking directly to them. And that is the key. Don't stare at the damn wall and pretend you're being interviewed. And instead, you know the answers to the questions. This is what you do for a living, right? So you should have no problem whatsoever explaining in a few sentences, in a few minutes, and I'm sure you could even talk longer, just giving that viewer the information that you know. So you don't need a damn script. All you need is a brief outline to remind you of the information you want to cover. And it's a big distinction. And I think people who get that in their mind and they get their mindset, you realize, I can do this. Let me get out the phone. Let me get a quick outline. Let me start teaching somebody something they didn't know. You know it. It's no secret to you or no secret to the other lawyers, but in the way that you're doing it, you find your voice and you're like, hey, let me just share with you for a few minutes 3 things you need to know about what happens if you're involved in this scenario.
Yeah, great points. Okay, I want to touch on 2 more things, okay? Platform and video topics. Let's talk about platform. I'll tell people, no matter what platform I tell them, they give me the same excuse, but I'll say, start making videos on YouTube, start making videos on LinkedIn, start making videos on Facebook. No matter what platform I choose, it's always the same excuse. You know, I don't have any followers on LinkedIn. My clients aren't on Facebook. Somehow you chose the platform YouTube. I imagine you had 0 subscribers when you started. Like, can you talk about the process of choosing a platform where you have no audience, but you still chose that platform?
Yeah, I chose that platform because that was the only video platform that was in existence at that time. And, you know, starting in 2006, 2007. And by default, that was the only place that I was looking to put my videos. Nothing else. Facebook hadn't really come up with video the same way. So I just started to learn how to put it up on YouTube, and I started to add to YouTube. Then as other social networks started to develop, and now they began to share cross platforms, I would take my YouTube video and then share it to Facebook. And when this is so funny, I remember specifically the day in November of 2009 when I signed up for Facebook. It says, welcome, you have 0 friends. And my kids would always joke with me because they had all these hundreds and hundreds of friends, and I didn't understand anything about Facebook or why anybody would want to be on Facebook. And I figured, okay, what the heck? Let me just sign up for it and see if I can take my content that I'm making on YouTube, throw it up on Facebook, and who knows what'll happen. So you're right. I had 0 friends. And on YouTube, I had 0 subscribers when I started. And I didn't care about subscribers. I didn't know anything about it. Instead, I just wanted to put my content out there to be searchable so someone could find it. And once that happened, people started to find it. And now they started to come back. And they started to come back and watch 1 video and more videos and more. Next thing I know, the subscriber count started to increase without me doing anything, simply because they were interested in the topic. So I focused really on YouTube and then on Facebook, and those were the 2 primary ones, and they still are today. And so now if I create all my videos and I put them up on YouTube first, and then I share them on other platforms. Occasionally I will take that video and upload it directly to Facebook, but I've stopped doing that because it's not worth my time. And I find that I don't get much engagement doing it that way. I find that sharing the YouTube videos tend to be most engaging for me and the people who are watching those.
Okay, great. Now, what I want to do next is just read off a few of your topics and then ask you a very important question. Because when I tell people make videos, the other excuse they have is, I don't have anything to talk about. What could I'm a divorce lawyer. What could I possibly talk about? And okay, so let me read yours, okay? This one's from 12 years ago. It's got 246,000 views, okay? And a lot of times I point people directly to your YouTube channel and I say, do 246,000 people even know you're an attorney? You know, when I'm showing them this video, but it's called Dental Implant Horror Story - New York Medical Malpractice Lawyer Explains, okay? Here's another one with 7,400 views. Optic nerve cut during eye surgery. Here's another one, 2,300 views. Unnecessary hysterectomy. Can Twitter and Facebook comments be used against you? 3 ways to destroy a witness's credibility. Opening argument ideas for medical malpractice case. Okay, Gerry, level with me here, Gerry. You're telling me these random topics generate paying clients for you? Is that what you're trying to tell me here right now?
Absolutely, 100%.
Can you talk about how an attorney can choose topics to talk about day after day? It looks like you go anywhere from 4 to 12 times a week right now, publishing on YouTube. How are you picking these topics?
Okay, I'll give you a quick outline. And this is a great exercise for anyone to do. I want you to create a timeline, and I want you to start from the very first point where your client first recognizes that they need an attorney. That's point 1. What is the trigger that gets them to recognize that they need an attorney? Then follow every single step that they take, because you know exactly what they do. So now they're sitting at home, maybe they're watching TV, they see a commercial, they say, oh, wow, that's happened to me. I need an attorney. Okay, so that's one trigger. Now they have to try and find an attorney. They don't know an attorney. Where do they go? What do they do? Who do they call? Who do they speak to? Where do they go online if they don't know an attorney? What are they searching for? All of these are different points that you know that they will do. Write down every single step in that process. From the moment that they are triggered to recognize they need an attorney to solve their problem, to the next step, to picking up the phone to call to speak to an attorney. Who do they speak to? What information do they get? What information do they have to provide? Okay, now to coming into an office pre-COVID times. Who do they speak to? What do they need to bring? All of these steps are necessary for you to think out your timeline. Okay,
Yes.
You decide to bring a lawsuit. Terrific. What's the first step? What's the second? How do you start the lawsuit? What's involved in drafting the papers to start a case? Who answers the litigation? Who answers those papers? What's involved there? And take them through every single step, if you're an attorney who handles litigation, of the litigation process. Just write it out, and you'll have hundreds and hundreds of steps. Then, once you've identified every single component of every step that your ideal client takes when they have a problem, now I want you to focus on those problems that are highly controversial and filled with drama. Okay, I want you to narrow down those areas. And what's an example? An example would be the first time an attorney calls the claims examiner to talk about, let's say it's an auto case. That is a controversial area. You think the case is worth the full insurance policy. They think it's worth a few bucks. And now you've got controversy. Okay?
Yes.
Critical, very critical. Areas where there's drama. You say somebody did something, somebody else says, no, they didn't. Drama. Why do people love these reality shows so much? It's because of all this drama and conflict. If you can find areas in your timeline that are filled with drama and conflict, you have a gold mine of information to choose from. And you can now cherry pick at random anytime you want to talk about those things that are controversial. And here's another hint and another tip that will help your viewers really exponentially explode the amount of content that they create. So let's say, for example, I want to introduce a photograph into evidence. And let's say it's a car accident trial. All right. So the first video may be how I get a photograph into evidence from my perspective.
Yeah.
All right, fine. The second video would be the defense lawyer's perspective. Exactly. You flip it.
Wow.
Now, let me tell the story from the defense attorney's point of view about why there's no way I'm going to let this guy get this photograph into evidence.
Yes.
Then change the perspective again from the viewpoint of the jurors sitting and watching this trial. Why is this other lawyer trying to prevent this guy from getting this photograph into evidence? What's he trying to hide? Then change the perspective again. Look at it from the viewpoint of the judge, who now has to decide whether or not to admit this photograph into evidence. So just with this one piece of information, this one topic, You now have the ability to create 4, 5, 10 videos just on these different perspectives of the same exact topic. So for those people who are struggling to identify what the heck to talk about, you know exactly where in your timeline people have questions, because they ask you these all the time. You know, how long is my case going to take? What's my case worth? How much money is it going to cost me? Am I guaranteed to get this result? Figure out where the most conflict is. So many times I'll talk about objections at trial, because that's where there's so much controversy, right?
Right.
I'm trying to get a witness to talk about something, and now the defense attorney jumps up and says, "Objection, judge, that's hearsay." Okay, now I've got a topic about hearsay I can talk about. And now I can talk about why it's hearsay. Now I can talk about another video from the witness's viewpoint about how this person wants to tell the jury their story, and they can only do it by talking about this. So you have the ability, by changing each perspective, to teach and educate the person watching your video about something they didn't know. And now, all of a sudden, you said, I didn't know what to talk about, but you do, because you talk about this all day. You just don't think about it, how to structure your videos. And now you've got a whole timeline. So anytime you want, you can open up that timeline and say, okay, today I want to talk about conversation with a claims examiner and how destructive it was, and how, or you may want to talk about your relationship with the defense lawyer. And now how it devolves into something that's antagonistic. And now it gets nasty. And the guy tells you to take a hike and I'll see your trial. And now it becomes vicious. People love that. So find those points along the timeline that are controversial. Don't do it just to generate controversy, but do it for educational purposes so that they understand why it's controversial. And the moment you begin to do that, all of a sudden you'll see people identify with you, they will relate to you, and they find that your solution will solve the problem, even if they have not come to you yet, because you have the answers to the problem and you've been through it without ever talking about your credentials. Does that help?
Yeah, that is gold. That's worth the price of admission. You know, what you just said the last 3 minutes, we could have done that and nothing else. Because as an online marketing expert, I have trouble coming up with topics. And now I'm going to go write that timeline out. And where are the pain points? Where's the controversy? That's just great, Gerry. I'm gonna have to stop it right there. I hate to do it, but I'm gonna take up all your time. What I want to do is give the audience a chance to find you online. I know there was a time when you were teaching attorneys how to do video marketing. Are you still doing that?
I am not. I don't have the time to do it. I'm full-time, you know, with my law practice and handling medical malpractice cases. So I'm still marketing for myself. And if you follow my YouTube channel, you'll see my regular and consistent publishing of these videos to attract clients to my practice. But as far as consulting and helping attorneys do it, I no longer do that. Okay, so YouTube, they can go to YouTube and just do a YouTube search for Gerry Oginski. Sorry. Gerry Oginski. And they'll find you on YouTube. What about your website? It's OGINSKI-law.com, Oginski-law.com. And this video will probably be viewed all over the country. Are you strictly doing New York State, personal injury, med-mal, or would you take cases from everywhere? No. Okay, so anyone in New York, you need a medical malpractice attorney, this is your guy, Gerry Oginski, Oginski-law.com. Gerry, I just want to say thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and stop the video, and we can talk after. Everyone, peace out.